Hello, welcome to Queen Chronicles The Series. This evening we're going to be talking about divorce. Are you a product of divorce? Have you experienced divorce? Are you contemplating divorce? There's going to be some good information that we're going to give you, and it's going to be open dialogue. So wherever you fit in, stay tuned and enjoy the ride. Well, welcome to Queen Chronicles The Series. We're talking about divorce. And so when this topic came up and I was given the task of kind of opening up the discussion, I was offended because I was like, this is not applying to me. I'm happily married. But I had to sit back and pray a little bit and do some introspect. And so what I realized was that I'm a product of divorce. You know, I grew up in a household where my parents split at age 8. And so what I realized is that divorce shaped, my idea and my thoughts about marriage and relationship. So this is going to come from a perspective of me, for me as a person who is a product of divorce, someone who is currently happily married and does not plan on being divorced.
Amen.
But also just being able to have dialogue with my ladies about their thoughts about divorce and the impacts on different individuals.
Well, I'll say this. I am not a product of divorce, nor have I experienced divorce. However, I am a product of should have been divorced. And I don't know if, okay, so my parents lived in a loveless marriage. So it was by the time I was a young adult before they finally decided to split. Because, black people, especially old school, they don't get divorced.
They separate, but they never have a
They might
divorce.
live somewhere, and my father
New boo-boos and everything.
new boo-boos, who was old boo-boos, who now just true boo-boos. Okay, whatever. My father, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Not mine, but my dad. Okay, anyway. When he moved out, he said he was not going to move far from us, so he literally moved one stoplight away. So I respected that. However, what I saw growing up was, like I said, a lack of love, a lack of common interest, a lack of conversation, a lack of physical affection, a lack of words of affirmation. Like, it was just lack. So my father dwelled in the basement. He didn't sleep there all the time, but he was married to his television. If I think about it, he ran his business at some point in the basement, but eventually he had his own line. What married man has their own line? That's back before the cell phones. That's when, I mean, he had a car phone. But that's back in the day. Okay. So, but that was before the cell phone age. So he had his own line downstairs. He kind of had his own life downstairs. And my mother was all about her children. So she would be upstairs cooking. She would be doing her thing. One thing she taught me was to serve my husband. So I don't mind making a plate and taking it down. But them enjoying each other, just saying, forget y'all kids, we going out, we'll be back, put the alarm on. It didn't go down like that. So it took me a while. I've been married twice. Once it ended because of my husband's death, but now I'm remarried. It took me a while to learn how to be married because I didn't have a good example.
And I think that's one of the things that you deal with when you are a product of divorce. Is that you don't necessarily learn how to properly love somebody, or on the flip side, how to properly receive love. My parent, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was young. I think I was like 8 or 9. I might have been 10. And then I think they divorced when I was like between 12 and 14. My mom had met somebody else who we didn't talk about something like him. I just remember they wasn't happy together, right? And I saw a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have saw, and I heard a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have heard, especially as a child. And as a child who, at that time, idolized her dad, it was just a bad, taste. And I remember them arguing in front of each other, in front of us a lot. There was a lot of arguing and, throwing of objects and, but they were both trying to figure out life when they were young. I mean, because my parents were young. My parents they were married when I was like 20. They got married when they were like 24, something like that. So they were young with 3 kids. And so I think that for me, I think one of the things that not hurt me, but made it harder for me, and what God is now working on me with, is being overly independent.
Yeah.
Because my mom was a single parent, and because she had to raise, 2 young girls, my mom was a get it done mom, right? And so she made sure that we could cook, we could clean, but she also made sure that I didn't necessarily need anybody. And when I think about trying to now be 38 and trying to get married one day, that overly independent thing might not work so well when it comes to, you know, marriage. But also what I would say that there came a point when my mom got married, before my mom got saved, she was really down my dad in front of us. Your dad was this, and your dad was that, and he wasn't no good, and da 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 da. And the problem with that would be that I am my dad's twin. So when you're down in my dad, I'm taking it in as you're downing me because that's who I look like. And so what I would say though is that if I know that you mad at him and he's mad at you and he didn't done this and she didn't done that, the kids don't deserve to be put in the middle of it. Never make a child feel like they have to pick a side.
Right.
Like I can't be happy if dad's happy, his mom might get mad at that, or vice versa. If you two grown people have decided, and the problem is, stop being grown-ups having kid tantrums. It didn't work out. For whatever reason, you know, it did not work out. And while I believe that and stop treating marriage like it's an option, meaning that I like you on Tuesday, we get married on Wednesday, by Friday your breath stinks, so now I'm over you.
I'll say this, and this is the immaturity that I display, because you talked about your parents getting to get married young. My first marriage, I got married, I was probably like 23, I wouldn't advise that, you know, but I got in thinking like, if it doesn't work, I'll just get divorced. But I realized I had that mindset at that age because all of my aunts and uncles, except for like maybe one or so, divorce was just, it just was what it was. It wasn't really a big deal. You know, if things don't work out, that's just kind of how it goes down. So when you have that mindset, which a lot of people do now, you know, it's not that big a deal, I'll get divorced, is you don't go in doing your work. You go in thinking, like you said, it's optional, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just end it, it's no big deal, and not remembering about the other side of divorce. There is pain and there's a grieving process associated with it. Research indicates that it is more difficult for someone who has been rejected by divorce than someone who has lost a spouse through death, because divorce is optional. So there's a level of rejection and hurt and deep pain and scarring that occurs when you enter that marital contract, and the word of God says the two become one flesh. So when that flesh is torn apart, that's just like you took my arm off. That mess hurt, and there's a healing there, and nothing can replace my arm. I can get a prosthetic. I can, you know, learn how to walk, talk, move, and you know, hit the bop with that arm. But there's nothing that's going to replace, that arm.
Yeah.
So divorce is a big deal.
Yeah, I definitely, and speaking for, I guess, products of divorce, because, you know, I've never experienced divorce, and I haven't, well, I shouldn't say that, but like my parents, you know, are have been married since I was born, and so, but I have a lot of family members who have experienced divorce, and family members that were affected by divorce. And I'll say two things. To not deny what you were saying, Trinice, but do not deny the form, how it forms a person's identity, you know, as a result of being a product of divorce. You know, I've seen, I guess being a teacher, I see a lot of students who are affected by divorce on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I have kids that their parents are separated, like you guys were talking about. They were separated, and last year they were really happy kids and really talkative, and now I have a few kids that are more laid back. They're more, you know, they're not as talkative and stuff. And what kids do a lot of times is they take the responsibility, and I'm speaking on behalf of, like I said, family members, and when they talk about it, they always say, well, it's my fault, I shouldn't have been born. If I wasn't born, they would still be together, or they couldn't provide for me together, so now they have to be separate. The finances tore apart their marriage, you know. And so just being mindful, I think the best thing, and parents ask me like, well, what should I do? And I always advise to go take that child to a counselor, a psychologist, because I think a lot of times when you're getting a divorce, you're so worried about finances, and you're worried about, okay, now I have to change my whole life around now that this person's no longer with me, and they don't realize that child who is watching all of this, and that child, the effect that it's having on that child. And even though it may not be as active as it may have affected you, the passive things that come as a result, like not seeing mom and dad in the same household all the time, or something that I saw with my family members is, you know, constantly having to go to a different house every weekend. Like those things really, you know, change a child's life, you know. And then like you guys said, then you think about it changes the relationship aspect, how they have relationships. Like, are you gonna walk out on me? We're having this friendship for no reason, because I know at one point we're gonna break up, like my parents broke up, so just don't deny the formative aspects of divorce when you have kids or godkids or grandkids. Everybody is affected by it, and please take your child to some type of counsel. Allow them to get out those feelings, because a lot of times kids don't want to cause any more problems by saying how they truly feel. Give them that space where they feel open to talk about those things that are really bothering them.
I'll say that I remember, like, my dad was abusive to my mother, and we left when I was 8 years old. And I remember my mother talking, to people on the phone, and she stayed in it as long as she did because she thought she was staying for me, And like I said, she left when I was 8. At age 5, I was ready to go. And so the thing is, sometimes parents like, well, we stay for the kids, but you don't know what kids see, hear, and remember. And so sometimes thinking you're staying for the children, you're doing more harm, than good. Again, being, in the field of social work as long as I have, I've seen these trends and these ebbs and flows as it relates to, like, divorce. I did a 4-part series a couple of years ago on coping with divorce for individuals who've been divorced. And so I had seen where the trend was moving from this whole concept of we're staying in this loveless marriage to we both want to get out, but we can't afford to get out, right? And so I had a lot of families that I was working with where dad lived downstairs, mom lived upstairs, because they couldn't afford to be on their own. Now, they weren't together. They were in the same household, just kind of sharing that space, And so these poor kids, was in this house with mom and dad who did not have a relationship, and it was so dysfunctional. And now, the shift that I'm seeing is that people are getting divorced. Like, we're selling everything, we're separating, or I'm walking away from it because I don't want to be bothered with you. But I think, Latasha, like you said, like, divorce is like, it's a death, and doing the group, like, a lot of these women, it was mostly women in the group, and a lot of discussion was about the fact how they felt, like, rejected. It was this thing about kind of like, was there something that I should have done or didn't do? How do I help my kids because I can't even help myself? And so divorce impacts everybody, some way, some shape or form. And if I am the female who's divorcing my husband and I'm dealing with my own rejection, I may not be able to handle what my kids are going through.
Right.
I have a good girlfriend now, and her husband are divorced, and they have, kids, and the kids are suffering, because mom and dad can't seem to get it together for the kids' sake, and so you've got, like, the 13-year-old who's saying, I don't like my father because he left my mother, and I don't care if I ever see him again. And that's what her mouth is saying. But I know her heart because she's a daddy's girl, and so here I am with my mother, and my mother's broken, so I've got to say what sounds good so my mother will feel okay. And what happens to that 13-year-old, she becomes 15, and she still needs her father because the adults can't see.
That's when children experience what we call divided loyalty. So they're stuck in the middle, and daddy's pulling me this way, mommy's pulling me this way, and I can't really stand on my own 2 feet because children still need the foundation of both parents. I think a lot of times in our culture we minimize the importance of a father and we maximize the importance of a mother. But the reality is that it took 2 to create this, and God wants that balance. So if for some reason it does not work out, let me just say this. If you feel like that's the way that you're going, you need to check yourself first and ask yourself if you've really done your work. Because to just throw it out, that's why a lot of times you see people who got divorced in 2010 who are back together in 2019, or who got divorced in 88 and now they come back around, they realize we should have never really parted. Maybe we weren't ready at that time, or we weren't mature enough, or we didn't do our work. There are therapists who can help you get through that process. There are books, there is so much literature. One of the biggest books that I always advocate people to read or encourage people to read is The 5 Love Languages. It's like $7 or $8, but it'll change your life. Because sometimes people feel like they're in this loveless marriage, but the whole time, I think I'm loving you. I think I'm doing what you need. Like, she's tripping. I bought her a new bracelet. I took her to Tiffany's and to her cousin Gucci and Louis. Okay. Took her shopping. I did all of these things, but what she really likes is quality time.
Yeah.
But you're spending all this money, or, you know, I am doing my best for my husband. I'm preparing his meals and things like that, but he likes gifts, or he likes acts of service. So a lot of times we're speaking, and you're speaking love to me, but it's like a foreign language. I don't hear you. I don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. So when we don't do the work and we just give up, we end up repeating the same cycle, because research also shows that once you're divorced one time, it's easier for you to do it again. So what happens is people get divorced again and again, so they lose an arm, then they lose a leg, then they lose a foot, then they lose a nose. Like, there's so much bleeding, and there's a trail behind you that you don't see.
And you bouncing.
Do your work.
Really quick, let's go ahead and have closing, statements.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Closing, quick, go.
So I guess, in closing, I'll say, you're just gonna put me on the spot like that. Go, Reese, you go first. So I'm absorbing all of this, and
He just finished talking, though.
I wasn't ready for the closing remarks.
Sorry.
I wasn't ready for the benediction.
In closing, what I will say is that, you know, there are some relationships that God never ordained.
Ooh.
You know, and so, you know, if divorce is something that happens, you know, it may be because you decide to take, you know, you decide to help God. But if there are some relationships that are meant to be together, communication is the key. A marriage is between three people. You, the person, and God.
One time.
If your marriage is absent of the third most important person, which is God, get married to God again, and it may save your marriage.
Amen. Get a phone thought?
I mean, like I said, do your work. Don't give up. Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We wash babies up. We are committed to our children. We should be committed to the one who helped us create them, or who's helping us now. So, do your work.
Definitely seek God, ask God for guidance, allow Him to guide you on whether or not you feel like you should be divorced or stay with that person. If you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like you are unsafe, by all means, absolutely do the courageous thing and get out. God will provide your every need. He's with you. He'll always be with you, and allow Him. I love what you just said. Allow Him to always be a part of every aspect of your marriage.
And I guess in closing, just know that if divorce is your option, do it responsibly. Do it responsibly. Don't make kids choose sides. And even in divorce, God can still be a part of it.
Yes.
Don't exclude God because you feel like you've let God down. Like you said, if it wasn't meant to be, it ain't gonna be. And if that's the case, do it responsibly, but keep God first. And when you enter into marriage, they say it's a three chord braid or something like that. You, him, and God. Keep that censor. And Larissa said that, but I want to say it again. Thank you so much.
She said
But real quick, because we run out of juice on the battery. So thank you so much for watching. We are so happy that you guys tune in every week to watch us talk about whatever topic comes up this week. So this week was divorce. We're gonna end out our month with love. We love you guys, and we're grateful that you love us back. See you all next week. Thank you for watching. What?
Queen Chronicles The Series.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.